An emergency message arrives on Junwo's phone prior to his glance out the window, revealing a terrible scene. The city has been overrun by zombies, which are pursuing humans who are in a state of panic and fleeing in all directions. The streets are in complete disarray, with automobiles colliding and resulting in minor explosions. A girl is begging for her mother, and upon the mother's arrival, the girl begins to consume her. Junwo perceives sounds emanating from the corridor, indicating that turmoil and violence are also occurring within his building. Upon opening the door to the hallway, his neighbor Sangchul intrudes, imploring to be allowed to remain due to his zombified sibling having commandeered his apartment. Junwo attempts to expel him, while Sangchul persistently resists and obstructs the entrance. Ultimately, Junwo permits him to utilize the bathroom on the condition that he departs immediately upon completion. Junwo then hears on television that individuals are undergoing transformation due to a rapidly disseminating virus across the nation. Symptoms encompass violent behavior and ocular hemorrhaging, culminating in cannibalistic inclinations. Junwo hastens to seize a knife and directs it at Sangchul upon his emergence, observing the scar on his hand. Sangchul asserts he is well, however at that instant his eyes redden, and he begins to convulse as his veins darken. He abruptly snarls and assaults Junwo, who successfully repels him and kicks him out of the flat. Following some difficulty with an arm, Junwo successfully secures the door. He observes through the peephole as a large zombie assaults Sangchul and abducts him. Blood is already oozing beneath the door into the apartment. Subsequently, Junwo obstructs the front entrance by positioning his refrigerator in front of it. He persistently attempts to contact his family, but the operator advises him that a connection cannot be established at this time. Fortunately, he receives a message from his mother confirming their well-being, albeit they are unable to return home. She implores him to remain indoors and to endure. The reporter on television advises that individuals should possess sufficient food and water for a duration of 60 days, prompting Junwo to lament his decision not to visit the grocery shop. He conserves his food and affixes a note stating, "You must survive," on a family photograph. The following morning, a professor appears on television elucidating that the zombies are the result of a mutant viral illness impacting the right hemisphere of the brain. Junwo remains unable to make calls. Nonetheless, he observes numerous individuals on social media inquiring about their loved ones and sharing their addresses under the hashtag #Alive. Seeking assistance, Junwo photographs himself holding a sign displaying his address and shares it with the hashtag #IMustSurvive. He observes a video of an individual suspended outside the window of a towering structure, utilizing a selfie stick to enhance his phone signal while broadcasting. The video concludes abruptly as he collapses. The television program states that individuals who become infected are asymptomatic for many minutes prior to the change. Junwo deploys his drone to the adjacent flats in his building and uncovers the presence of zombies in nearly all of them. He inadvertently initiates a phone conversation to his father, depleting the battery, necessitating the drone's return. He attempts to occupy himself by playing an online game. However, the internet connection fails. In the evening, Junwo is awakened by a car alarm sounding outside the building. He gazes out the window and observes a police officer firing at her compatriots, who have all transformed into zombies. Regrettably, she exhausts her ammunition, and while she is reloading, the zombies use the opportunity to attack her, inflicting several bites before pulling her into another street where further zombies await. Junwo attempts to shout at the zombies to divert their attention, but they merely halt momentarily before resuming their consumption of the officer. Suddenly, the large zombie from yesterday begins to batter the door until he successfully dislodges the refrigerator and forces the door open. Junwo hastens to initiate a counterattack, but lacking sufficient strength, he retreats to the balcony and leaps over it. As the zombie pursues him, it tumbles over the railing and plummets to the ground, but Junwo securely clings on. He observes the earlier horde of zombies and recognizes that the police officer has also undergone a transformation. Subsequently, he implements further precautions to secure the door and is disheartened to observe that the zombies' intrusion resulted in the devastation of the majority of his food provisions. That night, he records a video for his fans, articulating his profound fear on the scenario. On the seventh day, Junwo commences consuming his father's whiskey and obscures the windows with colored paper to prevent visibility from the exterior. Television news reports that the sickness is transmitted solely through contact with blood, hence an individual can remain safe by avoiding bites and puncture wounds. The zombies acquire enhanced strength and sensory abilities. Many of them even possess the capability to execute typical human actions, such as opening doors and resuming their previous occupations. After viewing an enticing advertisement, Junwoo consumes a bowl of ramen and realizes too late that a post-it note indicated this was his final meal. In his exasperation, he topples his water bottle and proceeds to refill it at the tap, only to find that there is no flowing water throughout the entire flat. He ultimately extracts the scant droplets from the table. On the 10th day, Junwoo documents another video expressing his frustration with the television messages that instruct viewers to remain at home. He is eager to depart, yet zombies remain outside. He recalls an emergency application including a radio broadcast that can utilize an audio jack as an antenna. However, Junwoo possesses only wireless earphones. On the 15th day, Junwoo engages in dancing throughout the apartment as a means of coping. At that moment, he perceives a sound and is astonished to discover his family returning. This fleeting moment of joy endures for only a minute before he recognizes it as a hallucination, precipitating a collapse. He falls to the ground, devoid of hope, until a voice message startles him. Junwoo hears his mother instructing him to remain at home, but the transmission is fraught with static, rendering the remainder unintelligible. Imitating the individual from the video, he positions himself on the balcony with a selfie stick, attentively listening to the message while the zombies anticipate his descent. Regrettably, the message concludes with a zombie assault on his family, implying their demise. This prompts Junwoo to erupt, leading him to demolish all the items in the living room. However, it fails to alleviate his frustration. He exits and strikes a zombie with a golf club till it is deceased. As he shouts for additional assistance, he peers around a corner and discovers a zombified Saintchul. Junwoo is not intimidated by a solitary zombie. However, his shouting has attracted an entire horde. He rushes to the elevator and opens the door, only to be confronted by further zombies emerging. A frightened Junwoo swiftly flees and successfully conceals himself just in time. Once the swarm has dispersed, Junwoo proceeds to return to his residence. A fresh zombie emerges nearby, but it is blind, hence, Junwoo waits for it to move away before hastily entering his flat. Upon locking the door, the zombies detect the sound and congregate outside. On the 20th day, Junwoo hastens to the window upon hearing explosions and discovers that the city is under bombardment. Believing it is the end, he records a video merely stating hello and goodbye before ascending a stool to terminate his existence. As he awaits the conclusion, a laser beam abruptly enters the flat through the window, directing itself at the word no on a sign. Junwoo grapples with the rope until he liberates himself and deciphers the words shown by the laser, which convey the message, "Do not be a moron." Upon gazing out the window, he realizes that Yubin has been seeing him from her apartment with binoculars. Through hand motions, they concur to reconvene at 7. An examination of Yubin's residence indicates her exceptional organization and an abundance of survival equipment. She has put a booby trap beside the door and shares her water with her plant. The following morning, Junwoo oversleeps and glances out the window at 11 o'clock. Yubin, feeling compassion for him, emerges to greet him nevertheless. Through gestures and their mobile devices, individuals communicate their names and a few phrases. At that point, Yubin hears a sound and informs him that they can reconvene at 7. She seizes her axe and pivots to discover a zombie ensnared in her trap. After a brief pause to muster her courage, she eliminates it. That evening, it begins to rain, prompting both Junwoo and Yubin to retrieve their pots to collect water, while Yubin also places her plant outside. Upon observing Junwoo's building, she discerns that the 8th floor is unoccupied. The following morning, Junwoo awakens early, however he feels unwell due to his hunger. Yubin observes this and attempts to toss a rope toward his balcony using a ball, but it lands on the ground. Junwoo deploys his drone equipped with rope, which is securely fastened at both ends. Subsequently, Yubin dispatches a bag containing food along with a note instructing to consume it gently. At that moment, Junwoo observes that a zombie firefighter has seized the ball and is tugging at the rope. The table at the opposite end is pulled across the flat and strikes Yubin, rendering her unconscious. With the table immobilized against the railing, the fireman commences his ascent up the rope. Junwoo hurls empty bottles to impede him, although none make contact. Junwoo deploys the drone, maneuvering it close to the firefighter in an attempt to destabilize him. It succeeds in grazing his cheek. The zombie persistently swats at the drone, necessitating Junwoo to meticulously evade each motion. As zombies begin to batter his door, he becomes distracted, causing the drone to plummet. However, he regains control just in time. Regrettably, the fireman successfully seizes the drone and obliterates it, but before he can ascend further, Yubin awakens and severs his hand, causing him to plummet. As Yubin examines her bruises in a mirror, Junwoo sends a message on his phone urging her to remain resilient. Eventually, Junwoo observes that the food supplies are dwindling once more and reminds himself of his need to survive for his family. Having covered his feet and head, he departs the apartment in the dead of night. Numerous corpses line the corridors, including Sangchul, prompting Junwoo to discreetly retrieve his keys while avoiding detection from a nearby zombie. He thereafter enters Sangchul's apartment and retrieves food from the refrigerator, headphones, a jacket, and walkie-talkies. He subsequently observes an object on the bed and shifts the covers to discover a deceased woman. At that point, he's assaulted by Sangchul's zombified sibling, who brings him to the ground. Junwoo used the deceased woman as a shield, enabling him to evade and commence running. The zombie pursues him. However, Junwoo hurls a metal bar to impede its progress and secures the door upon his exit to ensure his safe return home. Following a snack, Junwoo severs the headphone cables to repurpose the jack as an antenna. Nevertheless, the radio application fails to function. He then returns the suitcase to Yubin, along with a walkie-talkie and some provisions from the neighbors. They converse briefly to express mutual support, revealing that Yubin contemplated suicide as well. During lunch, they simultaneously cook noodles to simulate dining in each other's presence. Subsequently, they devote the entire afternoon to conversation, during which Yubin reveals her fear of heights stemming from a childhood fall while climbing. At that moment, they hear a sound and assume it is raining. Nevertheless, upon looking outside, they realize that every zombie in the vicinity is simultaneously charging towards them. As they advance through their various buildings, the survivors endeavor to remain silent on the ground. Yubin inadvertently topples a shelf, drawing the zombies' attention with a commotion. A frightened Yubin believes it is over, but Junwoo recalls that all the units are interconnected and contacts Yubin's neighbor. The ringing telephone causes the zombies to retreat from her door. Due to the increasing danger of remaining on their respective floors, Yubin informs Junwoo about the vacant apartment on the 8th floor, and they concur to convene there. Junwoo intends to formulate a plan. However, Yubin employs a table and some rope to leap through the window and land safely on the ground. The zombies swiftly pursue her, and she demonstrates remarkable abilities by either evading them with her speed or combating them with her axe. She employs car doors as weapons against them. As she approaches the adjacent building, she inadvertently discovers and seizes the officer's firearm. A zombie lunges at her, but before it can bite, Junwoo strikes it with his golf club. The couple now collaborates in combat, continuing to eliminate zombies while advancing towards the building, utilizing the abandoned vehicles for concealment. Upon entering, they shut the door and access the elevator just before the zombies shatter the glass. They soon arrive at the 8th floor and begin searching for an unlocked flat. Unexpectedly, they perceive a sound and ascertain the presence of zombies within these tunnels as well. Yubin hastens to locate an unoccupied entrance while Junwoo obstructs the corridor with various things to gain time. At that moment, a door opens and a disguised individual emerges. After propelling Yubin into his apartment, the man hurls a gas bomb at the zombies, allowing Junwoo to sprint and enter the apartment as well. Upon the man's locking of the door, Yubin expresses her apprehension, as this location was intended to be unoccupied. Nevertheless, the man is kind and generously shares his food and water with them. He reveals significant information because, to his elevated position, he occasionally intercepts radio signals and has discovered that a rescue team is imminent. Yubin and Junwoo are elated, but abruptly, Junwoo loses consciousness due to a sedative administered in the water. As Yubin merely consumed a drink, she's only experiencing dizziness. The man successfully restrains her hands and pulls her into another room, where he secures her alongside his zombified spouse. The blood on the walls suggests she has already consumed her own offspring. The man, pulling a rope from outside, liberates his wife while articulating his desire to nourish her for her survival, akin to his own. At that moment, Junwoo awakens and aims the firearm at the man, urging him to rethink. Nevertheless, the man declines to speak and releases the rope, prompting Junwoo to sprint in pursuit of it. As the man searches for a knife, Yubin persists in his struggle against the zombie, which exerts sufficient force to cause Junwoo to relinquish the rope. He swiftly approaches the door, but is unable to unlock it, prompting the man to shove him aside. Yubin places a baby's blanket across the wife's face, causing the men to get concerned when they suddenly hear silence. The man ultimately opens the door, and Yubin propels his wife upon him, resulting in their collapse. The zombie subsequently bites her spouse, who embraces her and declares his love. Prior to his transformation, Yubin lethally shoots both individuals. The gunfire captures the attention of the zombie horde on the street, which promptly begins to surge into the building. Yubin presents Junwoo with the sword and implores him to conclude matters, although he initially declines. She alters his perspective by asserting that they ought to perish as people rather than become sustenance for zombies. A tearful Junwoo prepares to shoot, but at that moment, they hear a sound. The rescue helicopters are finally arriving. Resolute in their survival, the pair hurls another gas bomb into the corridor and displaces several zombies to reach the stairs. Regrettably, a substantial horde of zombies swiftly approaches and seizes Yubin. She wields her axe for self-defense while Junwoo seizes a bicycle to obstruct the path, enabling her to extricate herself from the heap. Junwoo persuades her to ascend to the roof while he delays. Yubin ascends rapidly, but she can no longer perceive the helicopters. After some effort, Junwoo successfully drives the zombies back several paces and ascends the stairs, barricading the roof door with ladders. Upon seeing the absence of the helicopters, he begins to shout that they are still alive while both of them weep. Suddenly, the zombie horde breaches the entrance, prompting Junwoo to commence fire. Nevertheless, he only eliminates a few undead before depleting his ammunition. A helicopter ultimately arrives, enabling the troops to wield sufficient weaponry to fend off the zombies while Junwoo and Yubin board the aircraft to effectuate their escape. After the chopper departs the city, Junwoo's phone regains signal, and he receives text from his family indicating their well-being. Observing the city from a distance, Junwoo recalls the social media posts concerning survivors awaiting rescue and envisions his "I must survive" tag being altered to alive. Ensure you subscribe and activate notifications to view other videos of this nature. Thanks for hanging with us this far.